To it. I see you, sis, in the front row. I like to say at the end of the day, we need a leadership that's going to be bold. We need somebody that's going to stand forward. We need somebody who's going to work with the community. You cannot say you're a community advocate and not be seen. You cannot say that you're part of the system and yet you're not being heard. So I like to say I hope today's conversation brings value, and I'm looking forward to continue with you. Kimberly Mason for Columbus City Schools.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. I'm Dr. Antoinette Miranda, lifelong resident of Columbus, Ohio. I'm a recently retired professor from The Ohio State University in school psychology and chair of the Department of Teaching and Learning. In addition, my husband just retired after 35 years, and I have 2 children that went through Columbus City Schools, including one child who went through the special ed system all 12 years. I have experience both professionally and personally in Columbus City Schools. I devoted most of my career to understanding urban education, closing the opportunity gap, and understand how we can improve academics and behavior. I worked as a school psychologist for 3 years in New York City Public in District 23, one of the most impoverished areas in New York City, so I understand about urban education. My commitment is be able to give back to Columbus City Schools in a different way than I have for the past 37 years. I'm about accountability, I'm about transparency, I'm about involving the community, but most importantly, I'm about trying to develop a transformative school district that I believe can make opportunity for all children in our schools. So I bring experience. I had 8 years on the State Board of Education, so I understand about policy and legislation and how it affects our schools both positively and, more importantly, lately, negatively. I think that's it. I'm looking forward to answering questions.
Thank you all so much for sharing those brief introductions. Really quickly, you will have each 1 minute as we go down the line with the questions. We will get to as many questions as we can as possible. If somebody happens to mention another candidate's name, you have the opportunity, if your name was mentioned, to give a rebuttal statement. All right, so with that being said, the first word that I heard that was mentioned towards the end was transparency, and that's where we will begin. Many of you in the audience may know, and of course the candidates know, back in May of last year, we dealt with a leaked memo from a board member laying out these plans to divide the teachers union and to manipulate public messaging around school closure. So the first question is, how do you specifically plan to rebuild trust, not only among teachers, but among the community, among students, as we now look at moving forward, because we've got the budget and then we've got closure decisions. And then let's talk about that transparency piece too. Yep, you are first.
That's a great question, and that's actually why I'm here today. Our kids' school, Hubbard Elementary, was on the closure list in 2024, and then that memo was leaked. As my wife and I and teachers from all over Columbus were protesting against the closures. I think the start is to create a kind of a common sense majority on the board, which I think we will do after this election, and then we need to be transparent on where we're going in the future, and not just next year. We need a 10 to 15 year plan that will lay out exactly what's going to happen. Give parents and students the certainty and knowledge of that their school is going to be there in the next 5 years, and kind of put it out there in front of everyone. But I think that's a great place to start the debate. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a great question, and I think what happened last go around with the lack of transparency with the school closing, it showed that there wasn't a care for the community. It was a way to erase their voice and erase what they believe in, particularly as it relates to their schools. So for me, it's all about building some common ground and some listening session. I think for us to build some trust is going to require us to listen to the community, go to the schools, go to where they are, and really lean into what their needs are. And then not just lean into their needs, but also bring them along with the process, right? The decision-making process should not just be for the board, for the leadership. It should be community decision-making. It should be students' decision-making, right? It should be a collective coalition around what works best for their schools, what works best for the communities, and how we can serve them in a way that yields the best outcomes for young people. So it all starts with listening, ensuring that there is some transparency, even if that transparency is something that they don't want in terms of closing. We still have to have those conversations and bring them along.
Again, great question. Good board leadership begins with ensuring that everyone has a voice, ensuring that all individuals that are impacted by the decisions that the board is making have a seat at the table. And so being transparent is one, collaborative, and solely driven by our children's needs. Not my need individually, but our children's needs collectively. Special needs, transportation, all across the board. All of those things need to be addressed with the community and our children involved in that decision making. And that is how you restore the trust, ensuring that everyone is given the opportunity to sit and have their needs and their voices heard.
Thank you for this question. This is a really important question to be asking. I believe it starts first and foremost with making the day-to-day behavior of the board more inclusive and more involving the community, of course. It means access to the board, meaning to be easier and more accessible to the community. We have to drive 35 minutes to board meetings on the far south end of town. We used to host board meetings at our local schools, which gave people an opportunity to engage with our schools and with our communities. We also hide a lot of the board's business under the consent agenda every single week, and we don't know necessarily what goes on. We also allot a very small amount of time to public comment. And so we need to give people the opportunity to engage with the board as a governing body in the first place. We need to reflect our leadership in that way. That's something that's very easy and very simple to do that will lead to other open avenues of engagement for our community. And it shows our community that we really value their voices. Thank you.
So I'm a firm believer that you cannot trust what you do not respect, and you do not respect what you do not trust. And that has been a long broken tool in Columbus City Schools. As a community candidate, and if you've had the opportunity to be engaged with my candidacy, you'll learn that I believe you have to meet people where they're at. And that's been pretty much a staple within my professional career, from not only just being a PTO president, but more importantly, just understanding as community development as well too. You have to meet people where they are at to understand what they need, make sure that you disseminate information that is applicable, and then being able to provide solutions that are also deliverables too. With that being said, I would like to bring more of a community-focused approach that comes to Columbus City Schools. Now, as a Southside resident, I love the fact of having a meeting that's closer to me, but also understanding that those meetings need to be accessible across our city because of transportation, of all the resources that's available. So, as a community candidate, when you seek to thrive, to meet people where they're at, you find the solutions to making sure that you can build, you can retrain, you can attract, and you can also move forward.
Columbus City Schools is at a crossroads, and that memo just really showed the distrust that there is just simply on the board. Moving forward in terms of transparency, it's not only about Columbus City School Board, but it's also about City Council, it's about the mayor, it's about partnerships, it's about the business. We have struggled for some years. But right now, with the state and federal government and the way they're pooling money, they want Columbus City Schools to fail. And so at this crossroads, the board has to make a decision about that it's not about the adults, it is about the children. City Council has to make that investment with the Columbus City School Board. And so going forward, I think all of the partners that make up Columbus has to be all in, and we have to be transparent, but most importantly, we need to have the community voice. Not only the parents, but the students as well, to think about how we can improve Columbus City Schools. If not, we will be back here 5 years from now talking about the same thing. So this is a moment that I see that Columbus City School can seize the moment, and as the board, we need to make transparency and make a plan for the future with all the other people in Columbus that decide our future.
And so briefly, I just want to tag off that for just a moment because I had the privilege of covering not only the closures, but even doing some extended coverage. Cleveland Metropolitan School District is one of those districts that when Eric Gordon was CEO, he went through similar things. But there was also a plan in place. And so my question to you all is when we start to look at these partnerships, I want to dig deeper into that, but also how would you leverage your media relationships? Because that was also something within the memo when we talk about transparency. I'll start with Jermaine.
In terms of which part do you want me to start with? The media? Yeah, I think it's important, again, when we talk about partnerships, the partnerships not only exist within the community and external partners, but also internally, right? And so there needs to be a opportunity for, our communications department within the district to really work with and share information that we are sending out a consistent message to the community, a consistent message to staff, parents, students, and really, again, bringing them along on that journey. The transparency around media communication, we're in an age right now where there is a lot of distrust. There's a lot of distrust in what is being framed, how it's being framed, and so it really is going to take us to have these open forums on a more regular basis, right, as opposed to just a board meeting, but on a regular, more frequent basis, meeting the community where they are to really start to shift that message coming from communications and the media.
Ms. Keys?
So real quick, I was really frustrated a while back when I learned that media was aired around Eastland Fairfield Career Center and not Columbus City Schools Career Tech Education. I thought it was really unfair for this was top heavy in regards to the Career Tech Education program at Fairfield, Eastland Fairfield. So we've got to do a better job with collaborating with our news media in regards to what Columbus City Schools is doing, the great things that we are doing, because that doesn't always get explained, that doesn't always get shared. And I feel like if we have those connections with our news media outlets, that's advertising, that's TV, radio, all of those avenues of media. We need to ensure that we've made a connection so that our school system is well known for the great things that we have to offer.
Thank you. I'm sorry, just to elaborate, did you say media relationships or immediate relationships?
Media relationships and also the partnerships with others.
Okay, thank you. So I'll handle the question about partnerships with others first. In my time at Planned Parenthood of Greater Ohio, where I worked as a health educator in the Columbus City School District, I was one of the community partners with the Columbus City School District. We worked also across coalitions with the Columbus Public Health Department and Nationwide Children's Hospital to provide evidence-based, inclusive sexual health education in our school buildings. And this is something that helped cover a gap that we had in the Columbus City School District. It also allowed us to serve and grow our students in a way that our teachers don't necessarily have the capacity to do. So I have the experience as a community partner to CCS in the first place. And then regarding media transparency, I mean, again, making the board more accessible, first of all, is something that we really have to focus on. We need people to know what our day-to-day activities are so that there is something to report on in the first place, rather than just when a big bombshell drops and everybody starts to show up and the decisions are already being made and are already halfway through the process. This is reflective of our leadership that we have right now and our priorities with our community. And that also definitely involves the way that this is covered and the way that we engage with our external facing people. We have staff here in administration at the district that do a great job of making sure that all the information that we have is collected and able to be organized and communicated publicly. And that's something that we really have to leverage as we move forward with a board of 3 new people that all seem to agree that we need to engage the community more. So thank you. Thank you very much.
As someone who has been a community partner and has also championed community partnerships, I understand that when you're working with the community, you have to make sure that it is a value proposition. Our partnership should be reflective of our district, not just necessarily from a socioeconomic status to each side of town and how we administer them. In addition to, when I look at how we work with our media is much more like our candidate forums. They're to flesh out and uncover things that we're not talking about or addressing. And so if we want an image, if we want to represent, if we want to carry forth a district that is representative of the values and visions that we reflect, we also have to make sure that we are standing up and doing those things reflectively in-house. That allows the media also to paint a better representation of Columbus City Schools and to highlight the things that we are doing well in serving in our communities as well too. So as a community candidate, I hope to maybe marry those two things, that not only just communicating better with our partners, but in the same sense, making sure that the story is also being painted correctly.
I think partnerships need to be intentional. And by that I mean, if you have a partnership and we don't see a difference in our behavior or our scores, why do we have that partnership? And I used to tell schools that would brag that they would have 35 partners in their school. I said, if your academic scores are the same, then you should kick out the partners because they're not making a difference. So I think when we begin to look, we have to understand that we have different areas of our city, north, south, east, west, that have different needs. So we need to develop partnerships that are intentional. We need to make sure that we're measuring what those partnerships are doing, which ones should we keep, which ones should we let go. And then when we're looking at media, I think we need to have Columbus City Schools be much more intentional about how they get things out. There are some good things getting out, but we need to recognize Columbus City Schools is huge. And so it's not getting out the way we would like, but if we're more intentional and have a plan, I think we can get good news out to show the benefits of Columbus City Schools rather than the negativity.
A huge part of this job is being a cheerleader and using the bully pulpit, being a lobbyist at the State House. There's a large external relations piece. I had a lot of experience doing that when I was at the State House. Spent plenty of time working with the media, so I know how to do that. But we need to be building momentum and telling good stories and getting that out there and really changing the narrative of the district. The other thing that being a strong, I guess, partner with the media will help with is our pre-K enrollment. We have pre-K in 65 schools, but those classrooms are not filled, and we need to get them filled, and that will solve many of the problems that we're going to be talking about today. So, yes, that's a huge part of this job.
All right, and so even as he just mentioned about pre-K, I want to jump to enrollment because that is directly tied to funding, and I should specifically say funding. We already know that the district is facing a shortfall, not just for right now, but for years to come. And so when we think about what needs to happen going forward, how would you prioritize the funding cuts to programs and resources that directly benefit students, and what areas would you protect? I'll start with Ms. Keys.
So there's greatness in making sure we prioritize what's most important. Who's going to be in a position where they are going to lose things the most. So ensuring that we know which group needs what funding and the most important funding, that's where we need to take an organizational approach to making sure that we've addressed those issues that our system is actually experiencing. We cannot say that we need more students enrolled in specific classes if we don't have the funds to actually adhere to those. So those A priority has to be made to ensure that that education, that program, whatever it is intact and it's built upon. So our responsibilities at this time is to make sure we're organizing and prioritizing where we're going to place our funding and moving forward with that, with a great plan, a strategic plan.
Thank you for this question. First and foremost, we need to make sure that our dollars always go where they are needed most first, to the classroom, to the educators in that classroom, and to supporting our students' education. Full stop. There's no argument against that at all whatsoever. Secondly, we also need to have data-driven solutions every single line item that we look at the budget. And regarding enrollment, our city is growing, and we need to give the children of this city something that is worth participating in the Columbus City School District. We need wraparound services for students that are in need of special education, for English language learners. Our city is growing, and a lot of our increased enrollment comes from immigrant and refugee families in the city of Columbus. And I, as a CCS grad and former educator, want to make sure that when those people come here to this country, that they come to the best district in the state, which is the Columbus City School District.
As a parent, advocate, and community leader, I understand budget cuts are not what we want. And there's no clear strategic plan of what our current board leadership wants to do. We can't keep putting our cuts on classrooms, teachers, and student services. We can't keep putting the financial burden on the back of our seniors as well, too. So we have to start coming up with creative solutions. And more importantly, one of the best creative solutions is rethinking how we have our corporate investment with our tax abatements. At the end of the day, there is money that is going out and away from our school district. And not only just looking at how we could reinvest and have a better landscape, we could also look forward to how we can have a stronger workforce development and a better talent pipeline coming out of CCS to work for these also employers. At the end of the day, we are struggling, and I think also some of the biggest struggle is that we don't communicate that to the community. There are solutions in our backyard from businesses that can help tap in. From a competitive standpoint, they may be also able to offer us better solutions or services, but if we do not expand that conversation to let them know, from a competitive wage standpoint, we don't know how they can actually reinvest within themselves. In addition to looking at how we reinvest our corporate partnerships from nonprofits and the services that do work with Columbus City Schools, as how do we make a better leveraging platform so that they don't also carry the burden of the cost and they're reducing out of services because they don't have the money to fund as well too. There's a lot of creative solutions. Oh, I'm sorry, stop.
I think it starts with data-driven decisions. We need to look at what programs are we doing that are successful and continue to fund them. And then look at programs that are not getting a good return on our dollar. And that may be where we need to start cut. This is going to be tough. The bottom line is it should not come from student resources. As much as we can, we should make sure that we're providing that. And then the second thing that many of them have said is look at the resources in the community. One of the things the business community says is that they're committed to Columbus City Schools. One of the things I will tell you in looking at urban research is that cities that have a comeback often do not invest in their schools because it's too hard. One of the things that business community can do, as well as other partnerships that would make a difference, is put their money where their mouth is. If they are committed and want to see a good Columbus City Schools, they can help us fill that void in terms of the many partnerships that we can have to fill the void that we're going to need to cut. It's going to be hard, but as everybody said, we need to be transparent with the community so they understand where the cuts are and why the cuts are happening, but also how are we going to fill that void.
So we had over 90,000 students in the district in the 1990s. Right now we're at about 44,000 students. So I think the first instinct is to kind of say, oh, we have too many schools, but actually 83% of our school budget is personnel. So it's difficult. We have an ever-growing administration, and we have the second biggest city by land mass in the country to bus kids to and from school. So there's a lot of different problems that we need to look at, but we need to, I think the key is to fight back against charter schools and the bleeding of our students, and to bring kids back into Columbus City Schools and make them proud of our district through things like universal pre-K, through things like the Columbus Promise, which is great, and additional near end of high school programs, getting kids into experience with labor unions, things like that. We need to offer students reasons to go to Columbus City Schools, and I think that's the key.
But budgets are about our values, and I am a firm believer to always protect the classroom, teachers, and the students. But it's certainly around partnerships and how we can best leverage those partnerships. I'm the Chief Program Officer at the Boys and Girls Club, and we've had the opportunity to expand in partnership with the City of Columbus, and in partnership with various nonprofits, expand after-school programming for middle schoolers across the district, right? So there are creative ways, and those expansions have increased their academic rates, attendance rates, and those types of partnerships is a way that we can certainly put the priority on what matters most. And right now, what matters most is our student achievement and their academic pursuits. Also, leveraging those career and life workforce readiness programs. There is opportunity with the building trades, with the business community to create pathways for young people. It's starting as early as middle school to start to expose them to opportunities beyond high school. And I think it's imperative and vital that we begin doing those things as we look at partnerships and how we can really leverage the success of the district to take some of that burden off of the classroom teacher and also the principal and administrators. There are ways that has worked, evidence-based, that has data that proves. So that's my answer.
I want to dig a little bit more into this specific thing because we keep talking about programs and we keep talking about the funding and how everything is tied together, but I'm looking for some specifics. What innovative ideas and strategies might you bring to the table, not only to bring in the additional funding, but also to work with strategic partners? And then what kind of impact are you looking for as a result? Munir?
Yes, thank you for this question. So there are many things that we can do to cover these shortfalls over time. The first thing is to look at the way that we are spending our money right now, line by line by line. And that's an obvious answer to that question, but it's not something that we do enough while engaging the people that work within our district. The next thing is, again, making sure that people have a reason to come to the Columbus City School District. We need community schools with wraparound services, and this leads directly to an increase in the amount of funding that comes into our schools. It increases our ability to expand our services to our students, and it has a trickle-down effect to student success. Again, it's about tackling all these issues. It's a very holistic thing that we are doing here in the field of education. We have to deal with people's living conditions. We have to work very closely with the City of Columbus. We have to ask for more from our City Hall, our mayor, our City Council members to invest into our schools, something that was a topic earlier today in the City Council debate. I would like from those City Council members that were here and that were running for office to really stand up behind that action that they commit to funding CCS more. Thank you.
The outcome should be student success. Far too many students are leaving CCS with not clear pathways regarding if they're going to continue their education or enter a trade or certification. More importantly, when it comes to special needs, advanced courses, or just additional introduction to other different career pipelines, those are not available in their backyard. My platform will bring reforming corporate tax abatements and introducing a community first policy that has a shared responsibility between Columbus City Schools, between City Council, and also working alongside with our neighborhood liaisons. I'm not sure if many of you are part of your neighborhood liaison groups, but that is your first advocacy when it comes to a lot of developers that want to come into your backyard. And so understanding there the level of impact of what can also be an issue for Columbus City Schools or the residents, that's your first place to listen to. They're a great sounding board to understanding what we need to do to make sure that we have strength in our communities. In addition to that, strengthening our community partnerships, making sure that our partnerships are reflective of the values and visions in which we serve, in addition that they're reflective of our student body that we also support. And lastly, also making sure that we are building career pathways that are going to be needed for the next 10, 15, and 20 years. There's no reason why we have Google, Intel, and other different developers moving into our backyard, but yet we do not have residents who are working individuals of those companies.
All right, Tanisha, if I had the answer, I'd be making $1 million. I just want to be honest, there is no silver bullet. I think what we have to do is look at evidence-based strategies. We need to look around the country at school districts that have been successful. We have a lot of moving targets. I will give one example when we're looking at literacy. We don't have a choice of what curriculum we use. The state of Ohio says you will use science of reading. So the best thing we can do is to be tracking that data to make sure that our students are being successful like the wine promised they will be. I'm not so certain. Because it's not one size fits all. So I think what we have to do is roll up our sleeves, and it has to be a community effort. And we have to look around the country because there are examples of evidence-based strategies that do work. We cannot have gimmicks. They don't work. It sounds good for a while. I think about Stay in the Game. Stay in the Game was out. I haven't heard any more about it. It decreased absenteeism by 4%. That's the reality. Some of these things don't have these big gains, and so we have to realize they're going to take time. So I think it means that we have to sit down, we have to look around the country, we have to look at districts that are similar to ours and say, are there things that we can put in place that are evidence-based that could make a difference?
Yeah, with the question of, what can we do specifically? There is no one silver bullet for $50 million. We have a large administration for the number of students in our district. There's probably some work that needs to be done there. We have too many schools for the district, and there's some work that needs to be done there, but that work needs to be done a lot more slowly and responsibly, and with the acknowledgement of the damage that it causes to the community when you remove a school from the community. But the key at the end of the day is getting the pipeline of kids coming back to Columbus City Schools, because it is a place where people want to send their kids, and that's the key. The money follows the kids, so we need to create an environment where people want to come back to.
I agree with everything that is said. I also think we need to really look at our transportation and the busing, and really kind of how do we redesign some of these routes? How do we maybe revisit what the lottery system looks like? Students shouldn't wake up and have to catch the bus at 5:30 in the morning to get to school at 7:30, right? That's just outrageous. And doesn't set them up for success, right? And so I think there is some room to look at the transportation, the routes, and how those that system and inefficiency has a deleterious impact on our students' ability to focus, to engage, and really be present while they're in school. Also, it's over $70 million that goes into transportation, and yet the return on that investment we have yet to see.
All right, so we just need to make sure that we are not top-heavy in our administration. It's something we really need to look into, as well as involving our community with those wraparound services that our youth need, that they require, as well as making sure the green, safe environments. We look into how we can manage our school systems by utilizing green, safe green space opportunities for us. In addition, we need to make sure that we are engaging with our parents and our community to resolve some of these issues, because I feel like instead of it just being the board coming up with a decision on how to fix things, it needs to be a collaborative effort with our community, with our parents, as well as with our community leaders and our businesses. That will allow us to have a successful outcome when we are involving everyone. Everyone needs to have a seat at the table, because it's important, because we come up with better resolutions when everyone is involved.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. So someone had previously mentioned the Safe Green Schools initiative. That is definitely something that we've already passed, and yet we haven't created the plan to implement that. The reason why that was important to mention, and I want to echo that statement, is that this does create opportunity for our district to save money in our budget crisis. Having more efficient buildings with money that is already available to us, that funders are asking us to take, can happen from day one, and does help our district save some money. Again, we need to, yes, look at the transportation issue. We need to make sure that we are having the most efficient transportation, but that also means that we need to make it a place where people that drive our buses want to work. If I'm a CDL licensed driver, I'm gonna go work for Amazon, where I can make $10 more an hour than I can make here in the Columbus City School District, and potentially have better benefits. And that's something that has caused us to lose hundreds of drivers, and that makes our transportation system less effective and more expensive to run. These are very complex, big picture issues that we have to handle simultaneously. And again, we keep mentioning community engagement. That community engagement has to be every single step of the way in a very specialized way, leveraging the strengths and the knowledge that each segment of our community holds to tackle these very important issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Munier, for going there with transportation, because that's where I was going next. I don't know if you guys want to jot this down really quickly. So this is a three-part question. One part is about, should CCS be forced to transport and pay for private school students' materials? And if not, how do you reduce the burden on the public school system? But attach that, as he mentioned about school bus drivers, this is not just a CCS problem, this is a nationwide problem. So what specific strategies do you have to recruit bus drivers to help alleviate the problem? Ms. Mason.
So I have a couple family members who are bus drivers for CCS. Not only the fact of, from their lens, how can they just be safe? When it comes to training and development, that's not something that we do well with our transportation department. So when it comes to being able to recruit and retain individuals, that's not something that we are able to execute as well. A lot of people come to CCS because whether they've been proud graduates of CCS, their families have had legacy with CCS, so they desire to work for CCS. But when it comes to us making sure that we honor and respect them, we're not doing that across the board. When it comes to our budget, and transportation is let alone $70 million, that's the second highest cost in CCS. So when it comes to our transportation, we have to recognize that CCS is tasked with transporting our children and also students that are charter and public as well too. That strains our resources. And that's something that we have to work with our city and our state legislators to change that narrative and that conversation to make sure not only is it equitable, that whether if we have to transport them, there's some money that has to kick back to our district, or that we encourage them that they have to find other solutions as well too, if that's something that we're not able to burden and take the cost. That has to be a strategic conversation that we plan out. I'll stop.
One of the challenges with this is that this is a state law. And so the state says that public school have to transport private and charter schools. And so in some ways, our hands are tied unless we can change the state law. My sense is they don't want to do that. We have 475 routes and 440 drivers. You can already see the deficit. We are starting, there was an article in the Dispatch where our students are being picked up late because we're trying to accommodate the charter and private schools. Why is that? Because we get a fine. At one point, when I was on the State Board of Education, Columbus City had the highest fine, $25 million they had to pay to the state. Right now it's $10 million, they're expecting it to be $15 million. That's where we're losing money. So yes, we have to be a little bit more strategic. We have to think about, what are some other ways that we can transport. But in some ways, our hands are tied by the state because it is their law that says we have to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's a completely unfair law. They're giving less funding to the district. They're trying to privatize schools, and they're trying to get us to pay for their busing. I think we need to be willing to push back and say we're not going to do that, and figure out ways around it. In order to recruit bus drivers, I mean that we need to offer a promise of a career pension, respect, benefits, all, the same respect that we give to all our CEA and OPSI members. And then in terms of another idea, I mean, I think we need to look at partnering with CODA and figuring out how to do a better job utilizing the resources that we already have in Columbus. And I think we can at least make some headway there. But it's a very tough issue.
Tremaine? So we're not taking audience questions right now, but you can do it afterwards, absolutely.
So again, going back to that state law, I think that's just a way to continue to erode and really just kill off public education, right? That's the goal. And so it's going to require us to really push back on the legislators and really use our voice in that democratic process to get folks in those seats that will work towards more equitable funding measures around transportation. But I think partnering more, first, there needs to be some discussion around the lottery system, right? The way the buses, we have 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 students on one bus going from the south side of town to the northeast side of town, which we have 40 seats on the bus, right? And we're only transporting a handful of kids, right? That's a gross misuse of the transportation and those bus drivers in service of the work that they're doing, right? And so we really need to look at that some realignment with the lottery. Does it make sense? So we can really start focusing more and putting resources more in those neighborhood schools where we can build more community around those schools, where parents can be more engaged in those schools, where we can alleviate some of those costs for transportation. I think that is a place where it starts, where community can be developed and cultivated because they're not spread from one side of town to the other. But also, again, partnering with our city transit.
So I am going to agree with the whole, working with CODA to ensure that our students are transported across the city. But I'm going to also indicate that on the clap-ins that I participated in the first day of school, I saw 2 to 3 students getting off of large buses, the big yellow bus, 2 students getting off. Different schools. That is a waste of our resources. So to ensure that we are spending our funds appropriately, we need to think about the possibilities of vans picking up. And I've seen a couple of them in the bus yard back here, but I'm not sure why we're not utilizing those at this point in time, because it would definitely benefit our school system if we did. So making sure that we are utilizing the funds appropriately is very vital to our students maintaining what they have in regards to special needs, in regards to our early childhood programs, but we need to make sure that we are utilizing our funds appropriately.
Thank you for the question. Look, we're not going to get any help from a state legislator comprised of people that think man walked the earth with dinosaurs. So I mean, let's be real. So we have to come up with solutions here in the House. The first thing that we can do is offer a mileage reimbursement to parents who carpool kids in their community. This mitigates things like having 2 or 3 people on a school bus at a time. It also is less expensive and helps us build community care and mutual aid amongst our neighborhoods and our communities. So I think that's a great way to start. We also have to make sure, again, that we are creating hubs across our neighborhoods where we have larger areas where more kids are getting on a bus in a region, rather than the routes that we currently have that have some very small stops, maybe right in front of a student's house. Again, this is a way of building community and efficiency. It also saves us time, it saves us money, and it creates a more efficient transportation system. Thank you.
Ms. Mason? Can you start with me? Sorry.
No. I was like, I can go again. Look, I still got more because he cut me off. Look.
We have had a lot of questions answered. However, because of the time, we are going to move to closing statements. And so in your closing statements, again, you get 1 minute, but I also, in your closing statement, want you to include what is your message to students, even some of the students that are sitting in this room today, and what is the message to their parents? So we'll start with you, Dr. Miranda.
Thank you. So my closing message is, I am running for Columbus City School Board to make Columbus City Schools a better school district. And I believe I have the leadership skills, the experience, the expertise from my 40 years in education, my years of working in Columbus City Schools, both professionally and personally. To the parents and to the students, I think there are opportunities, but we all have to lean in. We cannot do this by ourselves. The board cannot do it by themselves, as well as the teachers. We need parents who want to lean in. We need students who want to lean in. There are opportunities out there, and I think we can provide that. So my goal is to be able to find those opportunities, to use evidence-based practices to improve both academic and behaviors, as well as having accountability and transparency and making sure that everybody has a voice. We want everybody to be all in. This is a transformative moment for us, and I think we need to seize the opportunity, and I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, thank you. First, thank you everyone for coming out today again. Really appreciate your interest in this. So I'm running because I am one of those parents. We have 3 kids in the district, and we will be part of this district for the next 14 years. And I think it's important to have people with skin in the game on the board. I think there's been a lack of that in the past, and we need more folks who are truly invested. I want to support our teachers. I'm shocked and saddened at the level of support that we give teachers across this country, but even in our district where, we had a strike a few years ago and, narrowly avoided one recently. I think that, my experience in the in this public facilities master planning can really help and be, a key component of the board as we work through this time of district, we'll call it realignment. We need a master plan. We need to support universal pre-K and start the pipeline earlier. And we need to support the community schools model with the Columbus Education and Justice Coalition. I encourage you all to research that and check that out. I think that is really great what they've done at Northland, and want to pursue that further. Thanks.
Again, thank you all for coming out and listening and taking the time to hear our questions, you'll hear our answers to a lot of these questions. At the end of the day, the school board decides what kind of schools you walk into, whether your building is safe, whether the teachers stay, whether you get resources and opportunities that you need. As students, as parents, but your voice should always matter. You shouldn't be guest in your school building. You should be treated as a valued and equal partner. because right now education is under attack at every level, but I believe here in Columbus, we get to decide if we'll invest in our young people or we won't invest in our young people. And I will no longer stand by the status quo that has allowed us to see some of the lack of outcomes that we have in the district that really needs to change. So I'm running because together I believe in coalition building and collective impact work, that all of us have an opportunity to shift the tide in our school district. Community is the root of education, and it always has been the root of education, and I think this is the time right now for us to shift that, and I'm willing to help lead that charge. Thank you.
So thank you so much for attending and for your attention today. It is really important that the community, the parents, the students as well, come out and ensure that they are informed of the individuals who want to take a seat on the board. It's also important for them to hold the board as well as the candidates accountable. We have a lot of parent groups that are around for Columbus City Schools. Getting engaged in those is vital to our community, our success for our students. Our district is facing budget cuts, and it threatens the success of our students. We need a board that's committed to our students, empowerment of our teachers, and parent advocacy. We need leaders who are passionate about our children's success, not about our hidden agendas or our agendas. We need to make sure that we have those. And I am passionate about our children's success. I'm passionate about our teachers being empowered and our parents having the advocacy that they need in our school system. Remember, Janice Keys for Columbus City Schools. Thank you, and I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you very much. My message directly to the young people in this room that helped organize this event, that come to school every day, is that you are seen, you are loved, you are valued, and you will have a board member that is here to put you first and to fight for you each and every day. You're going to hear a lot of scary rhetoric if you keep coming to these forums. You're going to hear a lot about how times are going to be tough. But you need someone here that is going to fight for you every single day. As your educator, I've seen you in the classroom and in your extracurricular activities thriving and doing amazing things every single day. And I want to make sure that we can continue to support you in that. You are not failures. You're going to hear a lot of tough words from across the state and the nation that we have failing public schools and failing public school students. And I want to remind you that we are not failures. We are the victims of a system that is failing us. And we need people that are willing to directly challenge that system from day one, full stop. And I hope to be that candidate, and my name is Munir Lynch. Thank you very much, and I hope you join us throughout the course of this campaign. We really need your support.
I want to say thank you again for everybody coming out and making space. I hope that this is not your first or last conversation in this journey of making CCS reflective of the values and visions that you serve. Oftentimes, what the issues we're talking about are regurgitated, and if we really want to make the change, that means that I have a call to action to you guys. When you leave out today, not just the additional candidate forums or that there'll be a vote in 60 days, that you'll go out and tell your friends and your family that, hey, we need to stand up and make sure that we are accountable, that we're having the partnerships, that we're having the conversations that we best seem reflective, dean, and that we need served today. We have a lot of things coming down the pipeline in the next 3 years that could drastically really hurt CCS, and right now the action that we need to take is yesterday. So I'm Kimberly Mason. As a parent advocate and community, I ask that you join my PAC and that you help us make CCS strong so that in another 10 to 15 years, the burdens, crises, and issues that our students have seen today will no longer be an issue because of the work that we did. Thank you again. I'm Kimberly Mason.
Really quickly, I just want to say thank you to each of you for standing up here for an hour, first of all, but also answering questions. We did not get to not even half the questions that were presented or submitted. But if you are here and you still have questions, please make sure you stick around to ask these candidates the questions that you have or that are like pressing on you or that are most concerned to you. Again, thank you all for your time, and thank you all for sharing your Sunday afternoon with us. I want to turn it over now to Morgan Harper.
Okay, people are still out there. We have a Nintendo Switch to give away. Our MC is going to close us out to then transition to our Nintendo Switch. Is anyone still here that entered the raffle to get a Nintendo Switch? And are you also under 25? Okay. We're going to get there. Carter?
Ooh, I'm nervous. I had to take the jacket off. Hello again, folks. For those that don't know, my name is D. Carter Robinson. I appreciate you guys spending your afternoon with us. I understand some of you have obligations to go to, but thank you to the ones that stuck around. We have something amazing that we're doing here. We have some amazing candidates. And now let's do something fun. Let's do something nice, and let's close out.
Great. Well, first, a round of applause for our MC, Carter. Thank you. I'm Morgan Harper. I'm co-founder of Columbus Stand Up. The reason why we started doing these debates is because we heard a lot in the media about people complaining. Young people don't care about politics. Young people don't turn out to vote. And we were like, well, why don't we start having young people organize themselves to care about politics? And look, it works. Volunteers that are in the audience, put your hand up. Karina, who was our lead organizer for the debate. But really, everyone who's involved, our timekeeper, Jonathan, Julius, who was keeper of the switch, so we didn't have any, stray switch thefts while the debate was going on for 3 hours. Kwesi, everybody, and all of you, please give yourselves a round of applause if you're here. If you're under 25, you brought someone who's under 25. Even if you're over 25 but still care, we love you and we're so happy that you came out. All right, moment of truth. Ooh. Okay. Now, we also did, as you all know, we did some of these tickets for people who are like us, over 25, like me. If you are over 25 and your number is called, the last 3 numbers matter, you'll be eligible for a wonderful hot off the presses Columbus Stand Up shirt, but not a Nintendo Switch, okay? So just keep that in mind. We will, in some cases, require proof of identification, but hopefully it doesn't have to go there. Okay, Zuni is our master ticket puller. Zuni, you want to choose the first ticket? Okay, let's see. Last 3 numbers. It's like Powerball, but only without the billions. Okay, 388. What? Nothing. We might need to go for a while, okay, because a lot of people have. Okay. 484. Okay. 345. 427. 441. Woo! Can you please confirm that you are under 25? Perfect. Well, you win the Nintendo Switch too. Thank you so much. Julius, you want to present it to him? Perfect. And what's your name? Could you just say your name?
I'm Simon Bao.
And how'd you hear about the debate?
My friend Karina posted it on LinkedIn.
Very nice. Well, thank you for coming and congratulations. Let's do a quick photo. Karina. Everybody get around for the photo. Perfect. All right. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. We're Columbus Stand Up on Instagram, LinkedIn. Reach out to us. Stay involved. This is the beginning of the general election cycle, not the end. If you saw anyone you really like here, get involved, help their campaign. Thanks so much. We'll be in touch. We'll talk about the T-shirts.